Hey everybody, welcome to my project for organizational theory. For this project, I chose the Montana State Hospital located in Warm Springs, Montana. I chose this agency because they've been around a very long time. They've been through a lot of changes, and it's a pretty unique milieu. So I thought it'd be a good and interesting example for the project. The mission statement reads, to provide high-quality psychiatric evaluation, treatment, and rehabilitation services for adults with severe mental illness. In researching this organization, I found that their structure is hierarchical. They're top-down. There's managers of various departments that oversee direct care staff. There's administrative programs also headed by managers. It's a very centralized decision-making process. That's one thing I found in my interviews. Was one respondent in particular mentioned that there was a definite disjunction between administration and the direct care people that carry out the mission. And I think that this hierarchical structure kind of explains why. This organization is characterized by an open system. It's influenced by a lot of other organizations, legislation, administrative rules imposed by DPHHS, and just like things that happen in the organizations around them. If one organization they work with closes down, then they have to adapt to that. So this kind of falls in line with contingency theory. They're kind of always operating in contingent on what's happening outside. So when I conducted my interviews, I found certain things that really stood out among all three people. One of the weaknesses I observed was the burnout of staff. I think in these types of settings in particular, there's high burnout. It's very stressful, some of the jobs, and the policies aren't always there to make it easier for employees. So that was one definite weakness, and that is one thing that the hospital struggled with legally is their staffing. Sometimes it leads to practices that aren't best for the client, and that lead to legal consequences. One of the other weaknesses, as I mentioned earlier, was the disjunction between administration and direct care staff, and lack of innovation in treatment and structure. I touched on structure before. I think they could change some things to make it a little more adaptable and to include more employees so it wasn't so top down. Also, innovation in treatment was mentioned as a problem. They're not always cutting edge. It's kind of business as usual was what I heard. Adaptability is satisfactory but not exemplary. When someone changes administrative rules, there's an audit, etc. The employees felt that it was adequate. They did a good job, but they weren't ahead of things. They weren't really going above and beyond. So I included those as weaknesses. Some of their strengths, though, and I found these pretty much across all three respondents, there's a supportive and community environment among employees. And I think that's quite a strength and something you really want to build upon when you're looking to make changes. Also, employees are quite invested in the mission, as you would expect if someone's going to take on a job like working at a psychiatric hospital. They're probably going to have a certain investment in what they're doing. Also, a high level of a commitment to the organization among employees. People really enjoyed the company and their employees that they work with. And they're just very committed to what they do there. So my theory that I came up with is built on a few other people's theories. One of them being Maslow's hierarchy. If you remember that pyramid, at the very top is actualization. I also looked at Karl Marx, his writings on a strange labor, particularly species being. He writes about, a human being just kind of being able to exist and think and just be an animal existing in the world. Also, a little bit of new public service, in particular people over productivity. I think that especially applies in this milieu. People really have to feel supported and really have to feel good about what they're doing in order to be innovative. And then also, obviously, this is very humanistic, this theory that I proposed. So this next slide is my actual theory that I kind of wrote out just for reference. So when an organization's mission concerns direct service to the public for the purpose of alleviating societal problems, The success of the mission and quality of delivery should consider and emphasize personal strengths, personal weaknesses, motivations, and aspirations, both personally and professionally. By utilizing an organization's structure, philosophies, and policies to reconcile these two domains, the employee or agent of the organization can be actualized and empowered to contribute, innovate, cooperate, and carry out the organization's mission in a meaningful and efficient manner, leading to high quality output for the agent as well as the organization. Kind of a mouthful, but I think that sums up the theory overall. So some of my recommendations to the hospital is, basically innovate in three main areas. I mean, I think their employee policies could do a lot because of the burnout and the staffing issues and the lack of innovation. I think they can get real creative with this. For example, there was a company in New Zealand, a firm there recently that switched to a 4-day work week, but was going to pay its employees for 5. It was so successful, and employees liked it so much they ended up keeping it for good. And create innovative things like this, I think, could do a lot. Innovative structures, I think there should be more dialogue between administration and direct care, and I think the direct care staff should be involved in some of the decision making because, after all, they are the ones carrying out this mission and these policies. Lastly, I think innovation regarding the treatment and of the patients there and being cutting edge and being evidence based. And best practices. I think you really got to focus on continuing education, encourage new ideas, listen to staff, better communication with outside entities, and I think by providing kind of in conjunction with policies, if you had a policy where you really emphasize continued education, I think this could do a lot for innovation in those areas. So those are my recommendations, and that concludes my project. I thank you for watching, and I look forward to the comments. Thank you very much.